You don't know what? It is difficult to deal with, absolutely.
How long you been with the post office? 22 years? And you're an OJI?
Yeah.
What do you do for them?
Do for who?
What do you do here?
I'm a letter carrier.
Well, I know that. Do you do anything else?
What is this?
Are you an OJI?
Yeah.
You
Actually, the person who trains the CCAs at the academy, I trained him.
Nice.
My name is Jim Ruzzi. I'm in the dispute resolution team in San Antonio. I work 10 feet away from Carrie Kimbrell. She was my mentor for Leadership Academy, and she is a fantastic individual and a great union activist.
You know, I think that there are some people that are coming up the ranks that have the enthusiasm, have the willingness, you know, to seek additional knowledge or gain positions of authority. So I do think that there's, you know, there's a future for us down the line as far as the branch is concerned. And it's only going to get better as we continue to bring any new members into the fold and teach them, you know, the same things that we've been teaching you. And you know, going even further, you know, the lessons that you all learned, pass them on to the people that come behind you, you know, and that's what continues to build this organization at the local level and on up to the top. It's been that way since 1889. You know, just a few guys started, you know, this thing, you know, at a bar in Detroit, you know, and look where we are now.
I just need you to go ahead and just introduce yourself. Just by stating who you are, what you do for the Postal Service, the NALC, and what year you were hired.
My name is Carrie Kimbrell. I was hired by the post office in January 2000, so I've been with the post office over 16 years. I'm a letter carrier.
Okay, so I'm Aaron McLaughlin. I am the Chief Steward at the Airport Mail Facility, AMF. I started February 22nd, 2014.
As a letter carrier?
As a letter carrier.
My name is Vanessa Sanchez, and I'm the alternate steward at the Airport Mail Facility in San Antonio, Texas.
My name is Roseanne Peña. I started working for the post office in 1983. At that time, I was an LSM operator, which is letter sorting machine operator, at the GMF in San Antonio, Texas. Then I switched professions and I went as a letter carrier back in 1986. I switched over to an associate office, which is Universal City, Texas. And there I became the first female letter carrier.
It's Rose Diaz. I had left the military. I finished my tour. I did not retire, but I came out. And because I had been in the military, they gave me a plus. So I got hired by the military, by the post office. I was hired by the post office, and I started working as a mail handler. I was the first female mail handler to come in through the GMF.
Currently, I'm on a detail working dispute resolution.
I converted to a regular career employee of the United States Postal Service April 2nd, 2016.
I started working for the post office as a city carrier assistant, a CCA, a non-career employee, in October of 2014. So it'll be 2 years coming up here pretty soon, and hopefully I'll be making regular here pretty soon. So that'd be nice.
Well, my first day was, I think like driver training or something, but my first day carrying mail, which would be several days after being hired, I remember feeling incredibly out of shape. I just had a baby, and I was just dying by the end of that day, going out and carrying mail for the first time. That's when you really start working at the post office, is whenever you go out and you deliver the mail, not so much Carrier Academy or the training classes or anything.
It was cold that day. when I walked in, everything was very chaotic. So walking in there, I actually though looked like a carrier with the exception of the pants, because my dad being retired, I got all his uniforms. So it was just, who are you? At first day was real easy though, because walked in, you couldn't help, had no trainers, so I had to actually go home and I had to come back the next day. And the next day, no trainers there, so I had to go over all the way out to Highland Hills and get trained for 3 days.
I walked in and I had, at the time I had gotten a couple of shirts already, so I was wearing pretty much a uniform as well. And he looked at me and said, "Are you the new person?" "Yes." And he said, "Okay, there's the break room. There's the exit in case of a fire emergency. Go ahead and just wait in there until it's time for me to need you." And that was pretty much my introduction that day. So I just sat in the break room for about an hour and was incredibly nervous because I had no idea why I was getting yelled at already and didn't know what was going on. But when I went out on the OJI, it was raining. I remember that too. It was raining that day, and we had businesses that day, and it was just raining, and seeing how he maneuvered the LLV in between these businesses, all I kept thinking to myself was, there's no way I'm going to make it. There's no way I'm going to be able to park this vehicle in these insane parking spots. So that was my first day. I was incredibly scared and nervous.
I cried. I had to walk around and it was too big, and I go, "Oh my God, what am I doing here?" And then I had one of those little trucks.
You need to remember that back then, when we were first delivering mail, we had the old Jeeps. I don't know if you're familiar with that particular
The
thing.
little ones?
That's what we had. That's what we used to deliver everything. That was a small Jeep. The letter carrier was responsible for delivering mail and packages, whether it took you longer or whatever. And it all was in that small Jeep. I don't know how we did it, but we did. You know.
I stopped and I cried and I cried and I said, "Lord, what am I doing here?"
I recall her calling me because I was off that day. She was calling me, and she said, "I don't know what I'm going to do. I have my Jeep full of packages, and it's my first day on the route." And she had like 30 feet of mail to deliver. Okay? And it was snowing. Okay? 30 feet of mail in this Jeep. Just, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
The first day of DRT, I just remember feeling very inadequate. Like, why did they pick me to be here? Because these people here are so smart that are training me, and I didn't feel like I was going to ever compare to what a great job they did. So I just wanted to learn and do it quickly, so that I could feel like I deserved to be where I was. My first position in the NALC was as an alternate steward in my station, and that was January 2005. And then after that, I became a regular steward in the unit. Eventually, I became chief steward in my unit. Just kind of worked my way up from there.
I tell you, when I first met Carrie, we were both members of Austin Branch 181. She was the recording secretary, newly elected recording secretary of the branch, and had just finished Leadership Academy. Working through the union, I've done nothing but look up to Carrie the whole time. Even though I'm her husband, I do look up to her. I ask her for advice on just about everything that I do, even though I do a lot within the union myself. She's a great resource. She is someone that you go to if you want a truthful answer.
So Jimmy, my husband, is an arbitration advocate. He's branch treasurer. He was an officer in Austin. He handles things legislatively. He's also very active as I am, and so that does help. So we can kind of switch off, and if one of us has a trip where we have to go out of town, then the other takes care of the kids, and vice versa.
I think the NLC is a better place with her in it. And especially being from the protege that she comes from, having a family full of postal management, and not just postal management, postal postmasters. Considering she went down this path, I think it's pretty awesome. And, you know, through her activity in the union, through my activity in the union. If it wasn't for the union, period, we wouldn't be together. I strongly believe that. So, I mean, I have the union to thank for having her in my life also.
The intent whenever I got into the post office, I come from a postal family. Both my parents are postmasters. My uncle was a postmaster, all management in my family. And so I think their goal for me was to get in. My uncle had told me, well, you get in, you carry mail for about 6 months, and then we'll get you into a management program, and then that's the direction you're gonna go. I got in there and I thought, well, these guys are jerks. I can't do that. I don't wanna be one of these people. So I ended up going the other direction, much to their dismay, but they got over it. They're proud of me now. Pretty sure. They tell me anyway. They have to. Within my station, the attitude about NALC was great. It was strong. The union was very strong in the first station that I started out in. Subsequent stations, maybe not so much, but the station I started off in, I think that's really where I angled towards the union, more so than I saw how management treated people, and I saw how the carriers fought back in that unit, and I wanted to be one of those people.
Once I went into the letter carrier profession, I decided to become a steward. So I became a chief steward, try to help the letter carriers because of the management problems that we were having. Again, I had a good rapport with the managers. Maybe because it's in associate offices, I could hear problems from the San Antonio offices. They were really having additional heavy problems set aside from what we were having. But I went ahead and accepted the challenge, and I went ahead and became a steward, and I was able to deal with the managers on a professional level.
Do you remember the significant moment when you decided to get more involved with the NALC?
It would be the first time I got hurt, because I had rolled my ankle when I was walking. I was out for 2 weeks, and then 2 days before I had to come back, I just knew something was going to happen. So I came actually here to the hall and talked to Tony Boyd, our president, and told him, hey, this is what I think is going to happen when I walk in. Sure enough, the day I came back, he pulled me into the office, told me they were relieving me due to attendance issues, and they took my badge, and I left, walked right outside and said, hey, Mr. Boyd, they did it. I told you what was going to happen. And they let me go. So, but I got my job back a week and a half later.
And then that's when you realized.
Yes. Then I realized that, okay, we gotta, something's gotta be done about this.
I think I was hearing some kind of a problem at the post office. That was when Rudy Perez was here. He was the president. I came in here and I was crying and telling him all this stuff, and he says, the first thing he told me is, shut up and don't make me crying. That's the first thing he told me. So I had to shut up, and then I explained to him what was going on, and he says, I'm going to fix it for you, but this is the last time. From now on, you fix your own. And I go, okay. So that was, and he kind of encouraged me in a way to, because then I saw the kind of work that he was doing and everything that was being done in here and stuff, and then I started coming to the meetings permanently every time they had it, and I came and I listened to the people talk and stuff, and I thought, I want to do that too. So that's when I was a steward. The majority of the time I was in the post office, I was a steward. I was a chief steward.
And I had just passed my 90 days. I was kind of already questioning the merits of management at that point, how they treated us, kind of the things that they may or may not have gotten away with. But just based off of that, we started coming to the union meetings. It paved the way for me because I knew that there was something special about the NALC, and I knew that there was meaning behind it, and I wanted to definitely get more involved just because of what I had learned so far and the people that I had met. And definitely also, I walked in the Fiesta Parade, and that was so much fun with the NALC.
But I knew I was going to be involved somehow, just to make sure, if not everybody was going to know what's going on. They need to know the information. They have to know what's happening, because again, it's not just one person show. This is a team thing. We all have to be together. We all have to do this, regardless if we're carrying mail or we are in a union. We got to do both. We got to be there for each other.
And as a woman in a leadership role, where do you see other women heading towards in the future for NALC?
There is definitely more opportunities for the female now than there was when I was there.
Yes, there was a class that was taught by Jane Brondell, who used to be the national secretary. She gave a class at one of our national conventions, and it dealt specifically all for women leadership. That was the first year that she had brought that into a national convention, because national saw the change that was coming, that women were now becoming more involved. We had more letter carriers, so now that we're trying to open up the letter carrier and say, you have this opportunity to become a leader in NALC.
I see other women in leadership roles with the NALC as increasing each year. Each year as letter carriers are hired, I think the percentage increases of women compared to how many men are hired on. When I was first hired on, I was one of a handful of women in my office, and now I think whenever you go into a station, you can see that probably close to half, maybe at least, I don't know what the percentages are, probably 40% or so are of women. So now that there are more women that are coming and doing this job, there should be more women stepping up and taking over union positions.
Especially here, even within our branch, I've seen a lot of younger female carriers getting more involved with the union, and I think that's a great thing. I think that we need to see more of the younger people involved, not just male, or not just female. I mean, male and female, but it's definitely nice to see more females getting up there.
I see us being right up there equal with men. I mean, I just feel women can do it, men can do it, we can all do it. I'm all about, I definitely feel an equality across the board with that. Man, woman, child kind of a thing. We can all do it whenever we strive to put our minds to. Anybody can make it all the way up to the top.
I think my proudest moment within the NALC to date has to do with anything that involved Leadership Academy. When I was first accepted into Leadership Academy, I didn't know anything about it. My mentor didn't know anything about it. I was class 6, so it was still relatively new. I didn't know anybody who had ever been, and neither did my mentor, so I really kind of went into it blind. So working through that level of inexperience and actually making it and getting my certificate and the whole process itself, I'm just the most proud of. I love Leadership Academy.
Definitely my proudest moment within the NALC was when I was selected for the Leadership Academy Class 21. Carrie was Class 6, so it's definitely grown into something, and it's definitely something that's very respected within the union. So when I was selected, it was amazing. I have been very much involved within our branch, but when I had applied, it was I was still very new. I had just came back from the Texas State Convention, and I had met a lot of people and was just barely dipping my toes in when I decided to apply. So most of the leadership roles that I had placed or put in the application in the essay dealt with things prior to becoming involved as a city carrier. But that was definitely a proud moment when my mentor called me and said I had been selected, and it just definitely helped me pave the way and gave me more confidence in my position within the union.
Actually, there's two things. First one would be when I got my job back the second time around, because I went through the whole arbitration, which lasted almost 9 months, and come to find out, look where I'm at now. I've made regular. I'm a chief steward. And the second thing was when I actually got picked to go to the first CCA conference up in St. Louis, Missouri.
That was a proud moment for you?
That one too. Yeah, both of them, because the one was I came back, I got my job back, and the second one was I got picked for this, which is very important. It was the first ever of its kind, and we hope that there's more to come, and we hope more CCAs get to go and learn and keep building and make career and go further.
And with just one word, can you describe what it was like being involved in the NALC as a woman and being a letter carrier? Is there one word that you could say that would, I mean, I know that's tough to figure out just one word that could describe what it was like being a female letter carrier involved in the NALC.
Do you have one?
I think I want to use the word pride. I think that's the word I want to use because doing all this work made me feel good and like I could really do something. And that's the only word I can think of.
Yeah, myself as well. Not only pride, but being proud to be a letter carrier. And being in the field where there was only men and we became involved as letter carriers. I felt good wearing that uniform. Mm-hmm. I took pride in my uniform, to wear it, to keep it clean, to look sharp, because a letter carrier represents the people, because we work at the post office, right? But we represent the post office. You have to portray us a certain image when you carry yourself, when you're carrying that mail. You have to let the public knows nothing about you. They only see you as a letter carrier. How you present yourself to the public presents the image of the post office. So it's very important. To me, it was very important that I had a clean uniform every single day, a positive attitude. Whether I was having a bad day with the manager in the post office, that's immaterial. When you walk out of that door and you're carrying mail, present yourself like a professional. And that's what I try to do every single day. I know it's hard for letter carriers nowadays. I know it's hard and it's tough. It's tough, especially CCAs that are working 6 or 7 days. It's tough. But hang in there with a positive attitude and be proud. Be yourself.
Because
be
at the end of that rainbow, it's going to be that little barrel.
You work towards everything.